See. Yay. Okay, great.
It's working. So good.
Well, welcome back from our break. I'm glad you all are here.
Is this your first time back?
This is our first time back since Christmas. So yeah, so today we're gonna kind of ease into things. We're not gonna do like a lot of power flows or anything like that. But yeah, just kind of get used
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of get used to some of the movements again and matching our breath with our motions and yeah, centering our thoughts and all that good stuff. So I'm going to invite you guys, let's see here. We're going to start by laying down. So if you want to lay down on your back, you can go ahead and bring your knees into your chest to start. And if you like, you can either rock back and forth across your low back, or you can go ahead and do some little circles. First one direction and then the other direction after a little while. And if you just want to go ahead and take some deep breaths. Center yourself in this moment. Maybe taking 4 or 5 just deep, slow breaths. Seeing if you can empty out your lungs completely. And then breathing till your fullest point. When you're ready, you can bring your knees back to center and allow those feet to float down to the mat. I'm going to encourage you to work those shoulders away from your ears. And bring your attention to your belly, that sweet belly. See if you can soften your belly a little bit. And then as you breathe, the invitation is to recognize that softness in your belly and see if that softness can expand throughout your body. Taking another deep breath. Soften your belly. Maybe that expands into your back. Maybe it expands up into your rib cage. Maybe it expands down into your legs. And then if you can return your breath to normal, just kind of your normal pace, I'm going to invite you to take the soles of your feet together, so kind of heel toe those together, and allow the knees to start to fall down toward the mat for reclined bound ankle. If you need to, you can always take your hands to the outside of your thighs for a little bit of support. Or you can always roll up a pillow or a blanket or something like that and kind of put those underneath your knees for a bit of support. And then again, in this position, the invitation is to soften your belly. And then as you breathe, and as you exhale, allow that softness to expand out into your body. Taking one more deep breath here. And then I'm going to invite you to help your knees together, taking those feet back to the mat, leaving them about hip width apart. We're going to do some mini cat-cows. So first, you're going to press the small of your back
into the mat. And then as you inhale, you're gonna tip and press your tailbone into the mat, creating a little bit of space between your low back and the mat. And then when you're ready to exhale, you're gonna press the small of your back into the mat again. Just going back and forth between those two positions, following your own breath. As you come to press your small of your back into the mat, think about knitting your ribs together. So almost like you are engaging these upper abdominal muscles here. Maybe doing 5 or 6 of those. And then coming back into a neutral position. I'm going to invite you to take that right arm up toward the ceiling and then reach it across your body, drawing that elbow in towards your chest with the opposite hand. And then here, I'm going to invite you to think about softening the space between your shoulder blades. And then releasing those arms back down to the mat alongside your body. Go ahead and reach up with that left arm. Take that across the body, pulling that left elbow in toward your chest. Again, the invitation here is to bring your mind's eye to the space in between your shoulder blades so it's firmly on the mat, and see if you can soften that space. And releasing those arms back down alongside your body once more. We're going to reach up overhead with both arms, getting an upper body stretch. If you'd like to link your fingers together, you're welcome to do that. And then exhale as you sweep those arms down alongside your body again. Draw those knees into the chest once more. Rock back and forth across the low back. And then leaving those knees together, drop those off to one side as you stretch your arms out to either side, just nice and slow. You might feel this across your pectoral muscles or into the front side of your shoulder. The idea here is to leave both shoulders on the mat. So if that means that your knees can't come down quite as far and maybe you need to prop them up with something to make that more accessible for your body, then feel free to do that. Then lifting one knee at a time back to center. Go ahead and wrap those arms around your knees. Rock back and forth across that low back once more. Leaving those knees together, drop them off to the other side. And then stretching those arms out to either side. Taking another deep breath. One more, and then go ahead bring one knee at a time back to center, wrapping those arms around those knees and rocking back and forth once more. We're going to start to warm up our abdominal muscles. So that means we're going to come to center. We're going to leave our right knee in toward our chest. We're going to lengthen the left leg straight out from our body, but we're going to hover it about 3 to 6 inches off the mat. Now, something to notice here, you're welcome to bring this up as high as you need to make that accessible for you. The lower down you are, the kind of the closer or the more intense that's going to feel on your abdominals. And if you would like a little more, then you can go ahead and start to tuck your chin and bring your shoulders up off of the mat, holding this pose. Now you're engaging your obliques, your hip flexors, but also then these upper abdominal muscles too. Then go ahead, roll those shoulders and head back down, switching sides. So you're bringing the left knee in toward your chest, straightening that right leg out, again hovering above the ground about 3 to 6 inches. And if you want a little more, then you're going to round up, tucking that chin, bringing your shoulder blades up off of the mat. Drawing all your abdominal muscles in towards your spine and breathing. And then go ahead and roll back down, bringing both the knees into the chest, taking those feet back down to the mat, heel toeing the bottom of the feet together and allowing those knees to come down toward the mat once more. It's interesting because in yoga, there are so many things that you can pay attention to. And so as I'm calling out cues or, just little adjustments or things that you might want to draw your mind's eye to, it's sometimes hard to go, okay, what's the priority here? I feel that a little bit in life right now too. I don't know if any of you feel that. It's like we often get pulled in so many different directions. And sometimes, everything feels like an emergency. And so knowing, okay, what's the priority? How do I sift through this? What is the next action that I take? It can be helpful to reflect on that sometimes. And also helpful then to just come back into the present moment and to go, I'm here now, in this space, I'm safe. When you're ready, you can take your hands to the outside of those thighs, bringing those knees together, bringing the feet back to the mat. We're going to roll off to one side and then push ourselves up into a seated position. And fold our legs one in front of the other, and then place our hands on the mat in front of us. And if this is enough of a stretch, feel free to stay here, or if you would like to walk those hands out further, you're welcome to fold forward. The invitation in this pose is to think about softening your hips. Using that breath to help you if you need. And then walking those hands back to center, switching whichever leg is in front here. Sitting nice and tall, and then placing your hands on the mat again. And either stay here or walk your hands out away from your body. Taking a nice deep breath. And then when you're ready, you can walk back to center. We're gonna straighten those legs out to either side, coming into open A's, seated pose here. And again, here you can place your hands on the mat, and if this is enough of a stretch, you can stay here, or you can start to fold forward a little bit. You might notice your body feeling a little bit tighter these days just because of winter and us having been off for over a month now. So be gentle with yourself. And I'm going to encourage you to add a little bit of motion into this. So just kind of rocking from side to side slowly, feeling where you feel that. I feel it very much in my hamstrings and in my inner thighs. And some of it feels really good, and some of it feels like, oh, I'm glad we're doing this. This needs to be done. And then coming back to center when you're ready. And walk those hands back towards our bodies and then draw both feet in together. This time we're doing a butterfly pose, so we can draw our knees down toward the mat, engaging our glutes as we do so, or you can fold forward and use your elbows to press in to the inner thigh to help those knees draw down toward the mat. It's been interesting in the last month. There's been so much that has happened in our world and in our nation and in our state and even here locally. And I think it definitely, I described that feeling earlier of going, there's so many things going on. How do you prioritize which one I can do right now? And sometimes when I get to that place, that overwhelm tends to lead me into despair. And so one of the breath prayers that I have been utilizing here recently, and maybe it will be helpful for you, it has been, I refuse to give in to despair. I will choose hope. And so as I inhale, I go, I refuse to give in to despair. And then as I exhale, I go, I will choose hope. And sometimes that's helpful just to discipline my mind in that way to help me through those moments. So when you're ready, we're going to round ourselves up. We're going to bring our knees together and then sweep our feet off to one side. Coming up onto our knees, I'm going to turn to the side here so you guys can see this. We're going to come into just a mini camel pose. We're going to bring our hands to the small of our backs. We're going to open up our chest and then look up toward the ceiling. If you'd like, you can deepen this stretch by shifting your hips forward and by arching your back further back. Coming up out of that pose, go ahead and shift your hips back. You can take your knees as wide as the mat and then stretch your arms forward, coming down into child's pose, resting your forehead on the mat. And feeling that stretch on your shoulders and down into your low back. Then lifting your head, you're going to press your hands into the mat and bring yourself up onto all fours, taking those knees underneath your hips. We're going to go ahead and straighten the right leg behind us. If you'd like to point your toe, you can. And we're going to take that foot up toward the ceiling and then back down, just tap it on the mat. We're gonna do that 3 times. So up toward the ceiling, and then tap it down, up toward the ceiling, and then tap it down. And then we're gonna bring it back, straighten out behind us. And then we're gonna draw that knee into our chest as we exhale. And then inhale and take that leg straight out behind you again. Exhale, bring that knee to chest. Straighten and inhale. Exhale, knee to chest. Inhale and straighten again. This time you're going to slide that knee all the way through between your 2 front hands. So you're going to exhale as you bring the knee to chest and then set it between your 2 front hands. Straighten out that back leg and then bend forward into pigeon pose. And again, if it's helpful for you to find a breath prayer to add into your practice, I encourage you to do that. Maybe the one that I said earlier is fitting for you. Maybe you want to choose another one. You're welcome to do that. But for me, it's, I refuse to give in to despair. I will choose hope. We're going to stay here for about 7 to 10 breaths. So get comfy if you can. Maybe taking 1 or 2 more breaths here. And then working yourself back onto your palms. We're going to engage our core and then slide that knee back underneath our hip. From here, we're going to go ahead and shift our weight to that right knee, straightening the left leg behind us. See if you can make sure to keep your hips square to the mat, so you're not opening them up to the side, they're staying square to the mat. And then you're going to lift that toe up toward the ceiling and then bring it down to tap it on the ground. I'm doing that about 3 times. Inhale and lift, and then exhale down. And then bring it back up, straight out behind you. As you exhale, you're going to draw that knee into your chest. And then inhale, straighten that leg behind you. Exhale into the chest. Inhale and straighten. Exhale into the chest. Inhale and straighten. And then just as we did before, we're going to exhale that knee into our chest, but we're going to set the knee between our 2 front hands. So you're going to exhale into the chest. Keep going. Set that knee between your 2 front hands. And straighten out that leg behind you. Rolling forward over top of that knee. Again, staying here for about 7 to 10 breaths. Bringing your mind's eye to your hips again. Thinking about softening those hips. Maybe utilizing your breath prayer as you do so. And then when you're ready, you can start to work yourself up onto those palms. And then you're gonna engage your core and then shift that knee back underneath your hips. Coming back to all fours here. I'm gonna invite you to tuck your toes. And we're gonna walk ourselves back onto our knees, but keeping our hands on the mat. So that way our weight is kind of evenly distributed here. And we're just gonna push the mat away from us, stretching out the bottom side of our feet. And then coming up out of that, I'm gonna invite you to untuck your toes. You're gonna sit on your heels, this time leaving your hands on the mat. You're gonna try to lift your knees up off of the mat, stretching out the front side of your feet. Taking another deep breath. And then setting those down, coming back up onto all fours. This time we're gonna tuck our toes, lift our hips, stretch our heels toward the mat, pushing ourselves into our first downward facing dog. And walking our hands back towards our feet. I'm going to invite you to bend your knees slightly here. Take one elbow in each hand and just hang down for ragdoll pose. If you'd like to find a little movement here, maybe swaying side to side, you're welcome to do that. And coming back to center, placing your hands on the mat, see if you can straighten your legs a little further. Coming into forward fold. Tucking your chin, allowing the crown of the head to fall down toward the mat. And then bending those knees deeply this time. Placing your hands on your knees, and go ahead and slowly round yourself up. Your shoulders and then your head should be the last thing that comes up. We're gonna go through mountain pose here at the back of the mat since it's been a little while. So to start, I'm gonna encourage you guys to rock back and forth across your feet. And as you do that, I'm going to remind us that we kind of have four corners of the feet. So there's either side of the ball of the foot and then either side of the heel of the foot. And we want to make sure that all four of those areas are feeling really firmly planted into the mat. So when you feel like you have a really good connection with the mat, then you can kind of allow those toes to settle down towards the mat and just really press those feet into the mat. From there, we're going to travel up our legs. So we want to make sure that our hips are directly over top of our ankles. So we're not overcorrecting one direction or the other, but we are stacking hips over top of ankles and then coming up to shoulders, thinking about shoulders over top of hips, and then ears over top of shoulders. Allow those arms to come down to either side, open up those palms toward the front, and then pull that belly button in towards your spine. What that does is that softens your tailbone down. And here we're going to take 3 deep breaths. When you're ready, we're going to go ahead and step forward with the left foot. And we're going to angle this back foot just slightly. Opening up our hips to the side a little bit. We're gonna raise our arms up into warrior two. Thinking about our arms being parallel to the floor. I'm gonna invite you to straighten that front leg. We're gonna turn our palms to the side here, and then we're gonna tip down toward that leg. So if you need to hold onto your shin or onto your leg in some place here for support, feel free to do that. If you feel like you've got enough leeway in your body today to be able to come all the way down to the mat, you're welcome to do that too. Taking a few deep breaths here. Give you one more. And then engaging your core, we're gonna lift ourselves all the way back up. And then bend that front knee and turn the palms down toward the mat, coming into warrior two again. We're taking that back hand, sweeping it up to meet the front hand. We're gonna clasp those hands and we're gonna turn our hips so that way they're facing the short edge of the mat here. We're gonna allow the heel of that back foot to come up off the mat. And then from here, we're going to exhale, step forward and lift our hands up toward the ceiling. So we're gonna exhale, step forward, lift the hands up toward the ceiling. Take a few deep breaths here. And then if you can, I'm gonna invite you to lean off to one side. Inhaling back to center when you're ready. And then exhaling off to the other side. Inhaling back to center. We're going to step back with that same leg. Exhale and bring our arms down straight in front of us again. The heel is up in the back for right now. We're going to release the clasp on those hands. We're going to set that heel down and turn the foot a little bit as we open up to the side, coming back into warrior two. We're going to take both hands all the way down to the mat. Allow that back heel to come up again. Stepping back with the left foot. We're going to bring the knees back down, sitting our hips over top of our heels, stretching forward into child's pose. When you're ready, we're going to go ahead and come up onto all fours, tucking our toes, lifting our hips, pushing back into downward facing dog. Noticing how this downward facing dog feels different from the first one that we did, if it does. Then walking those hands back towards our feet. We're gonna bend those knees. Take one elbow in each arm. Hang forward for ragdoll pose. Feel free to sway side to side if you like. Coming back to center, placing your hands on the mat. See if you can straighten your legs a little bit further. Leaving your chin tucked. Continuing to breathe. Then bending your knees deeply, placing your hands on your knees. Go ahead and round yourself up. Returning to mountain pose. We're going to take 3 deep breaths here again to start. And then when you're ready, We're gonna go ahead and step forward this time with the right leg. And then we're gonna angle that back foot, opening up our hips to the side, and then bringing those arms up into warrior two. Take a nice deep breath. I'm gonna invite you to straighten that front leg, turn your palms to the side, and then tip down. Again, using your leg for support if you need to, or if you feel good enough to take that hand all the way down to the mat, feel free to do that too. Taking a couple deep breaths here. Then engage your core. Press your feet into the mat. Lift yourself back up. Bend that front knee. Take those palms down toward the mat for warrior two. From here, we're taking that back arm. We're swinging it around to the front. So our hips naturally come toward the short edge of our mat. The back heel comes up off of the mat. And then on our next exhale, we're going to step forward and lift those arms up toward the ceiling. Then go ahead, inhale and lean off to one side. Then exhale once you get there. Then inhale back to center. And then exhale off to the other side. And inhale back to center. Stepping back with that same leg, we're exhaling as we step back and bring our arms down straight in front of us. Releasing those hands, opening up the arms to the side, coming back into warrior two. And then taking both hands down to the mat, allowing that back heel to come up off the mat. We're stepping that right foot back. We're dropping our knees down to the mat, untucking our toes, shifting our hips over heels, and then coming into child's pose. When you're ready, you can start to pull yourself forward first into all fours, and then allow those hips to keep coming forward. Tuck the elbows in toward your rib cage, and then open up your chest for cobra. And then relax all the way down, taking those arms, making a little pillow for yourself. Allow the heels to fall open, softening the thighs as they rest on the mat. Softening your belly. Relaxing your low back space. Taking a deep breath. While you guys are there, I'm going to check our time here. When you're ready, I'm going to invite you to bend your knees, bringing your feet up toward the ceiling, and then just windshield vibrating those feet from side to side. Releasing any tension you feel in that low back space. Maybe bringing your mind and heart back to your breath prayer. Staying present in this moment. Move your feet back to the ceiling. Release those feet down to the mat. We're going to start to work those hands underneath our shoulders once more. We're going to push ourselves up into a modified plank position. And then shift our hips back. So we're coming back onto all fours. Straightening that right leg behind us as we inhale. Exhale, knee to chest. And then see if you can place that foot between your two front hands here. So we're in a kneeling position. We're gonna go ahead and start to walk our hands back, allowing the front toes to come up toward the ceiling, straightening out that front leg. Continuing to breathe. And walking those hands forward, planting that foot on the mat, and then see if you can stretch forward into a low lunge. Let's go back and forth between those two positions just a couple times. So walking our weight back over top of that back knee to stretch out the front leg, and then walking our weight forward, stretching out the left flexor. Maybe doing that one more time, walking the weight back. And then walking forward. Then stepping that right foot back, so that way the knees come together again. Returning to our all fours here. We're going to straighten that left leg out behind us as we inhale. And then exhale, knee to chest. And then place that left foot between the two front hands. Once we're here in this position, then we'll walk our weight back, straightening out that front leg, allowing the toes to come up toward the ceiling. Pausing and breathing. Then walking those hands forward as we plant that foot on the mat, stretching out the hip flexor. Once again, shifting your weight back, feeling a nice hamstring stretch on that front leg. And then walking forward, stretching into that low lunge. Last time, shifting your weight back. And then shifting your weight forward. And go ahead and step that left foot back to meet the right, so your knees are together. We're going to walk our hands out away from us, coming back into our modified plank, and then keeping the elbows close to our bodies. We're going to lower all the way down. Once again, making a little pillow for ourselves, resting our heads down. As you rest here, I'm going to share with you a quote by a guy named Rob Bell. And this was a quote, I think, from his book called Velvet Elvis. And he says, "What the world around us needs is hope. Not a blind hope that ignores pain and suffering, but a real hope that stares pain and suffering in the face and refuses to believe that that is all there is." When you're ready, you're going to take those hands back underneath your shoulders. We're going to push back up into our plank pose, shifting our hips back. We're going to go ahead and come down to a seated pose. Seated pose once more. Stretching those legs out to either side. Bringing those palms to the mat in front of you. Again, stretching forward as far as feels comfortable to you.
Again, maybe returning to your breath prayer in this moment. As a reminder, mine that I've been using recently is, I refuse to give in to despair. I will choose hope. And then go ahead and walk those hands back to center, rounding yourself up, bringing those feet together, returning to a butterfly pose. Again, here you can engage your glutes and pull those knees toward the mat, or you can lean forward and press those knees down with the elbows here. And then rounding yourself up, I'm gonna invite you to come to a comfortable seated position. We'll open up our palms on our knees, open up our chests. Feel free to close your eyes or to soften your gaze. And then let me pray for us. God, you are the God of hope. And Lord, when things feel out of control or chaotic, or like we don't know what's going to happen next, God, we return to you. We return to that foundational hope in our lives, that this pain and suffering is not all there is. So Lord, would you remind us of that hope as we go today? And would you help us to be disciplined enough when we find ourselves wandering into despair to return again to hope? We love you, and it's in your name we pray. Yes, namaste.